Welcome or welcome back to the 8th concession. My name is Natalie. Gardening is a passion of mine. It's fun, I love doing it, but it's also a lot of work. And when you put that much time and care into growing vegetables and fruits, you want to see return on that. So if you can find a way to increase your harvest or to extend your growing season or get better fruits and vegetables, you're going to grab onto that. And that's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about an old technique, maybe even an ancient technique that I have been experimenting with and I'm really excited about. Those of you who've been following me know what I'm going to talk about, and that's this behind me, cloches. For those of you not familiar, a cloche is just the French word for bell, because cloches historically were bell-shaped jars, glass jars, that were used in gardening, and they were used on a big scale even. Now, how do they work? Well, a cloche really is just a mini greenhouse. So why didn't, early farmers just build a big greenhouse, you might ask? Well, the beauty of cloches is you can use them to put over individual plants. You can easily put them on and take them off. You can move them around. You can use them for a little while and then remove them without having to transplant or move the plant. So that is the beauty of cloches. Now, how can you use them in your garden and where can you get them? Well, real cloches are now considered antiques and they are extremely expensive, as I mentioned before. I think $50 or $60. Well, you're not going to save much on your gardening if you're paying $50 or $60 for a cloche. But seeing as a cloche is really just a bell-shaped glass dish, I decided to improvise and try and find alternatives that were cost-effective. So I went to thrift stores to see what I could find. And as I've mentioned before, for those of you who've been watching my experiment, I was able to find different kinds of glass jars, vases, fruit bowls, and even punch bowls like this one behind me that I've been using as a cloche. So does it work? The simple answer is yes. Now, last fall, I decided to get cloches. It was about the end of October, I think, beginning of November. And the price of lettuce here in Southern Ontario skyrocketed. I think it was $4 or $5 for a head of lettuce. And that was just ridiculous. So I searched for some way to extend my growing season that I could afford and that would work. And so I tried. This lettuce behind me here actually seeded itself from last year. I had my lettuce here. I let it go to seed and I didn't collect the seed quickly enough and a lot of it sprouted, which is fine. So I tried putting the cloche over some of the sprouted lettuce. I also, farther down in bed number 1, actually planted some lettuce seed and put a small cloche over it. And those seeds germinated. It was amazing. It was already pretty cold here, well on its way to winter, but the seeds germinated. Now, they didn't manage to grow beyond that because then we were getting into November, December, and the temperatures were getting really, really cold, below freezing. So, but it was exciting to me that I was able to germinate seeds at the end of October, zone 5B. Now, in the spring, I decided to use them again to speed up my harvest. And let me show you what has happened. So what we're looking at is the lettuce that seeded itself. And as I've mentioned before, this lettuce, I don't know why, but it survives winters in Ontario. It survived being covered with snow. I didn't try and protect the plants at all, but they did survive as small plants. And now at the beginning of the season, they've grown. Now, the ones under the cloche versus the ones that just grew on their own, you can see that the ones that have grown on their own, it is now the end of May almost, they are ready for harvest. The ones under the cloche, let me just remove this here, are also ready for harvest. But the difference is, this will be the 3rd time I am cutting this lettuce under the cloches. I've already harvested twice. We've been enjoying fresh salad. So that means under the cloche, I was able to harvest 3 times as much as here. This is going to be the third cutting. The ones on the outside, it's the first cutting. Imagine getting 3 times as much lettuce from the same plants. And the first harvest of this lettuce was actually in April. Now, for those of you who are in colder, you have to excuse my chickens calling, they think I have their treat. For those of you living in colder parts of the world, you know that it's hard to get anything to harvest in April. The snow is barely gone. But I did have my first feed of good-sized lettuce in April. I harvested again a few weeks later, and today I'm going to harvest again. It is definitely worth using a cloche if you want to triple your harvest. Now that it's warmer here, it's not that warm. We're actually having a fairly cool spring. We are going up to anywhere between 18 and 23 during the day. I think that's in the high 70s to low 80s. Overnight, it's still getting quite cool around here. Down to about 6 Celsius. I'm trying to remember what that is Fahrenheit. I'll put it on the screen. And the lettuce doesn't need protection anymore. The cloches have done their job. And I can take them off now. So I am simply going to let all the lettuce just grow. Well, actually, this lettuce is not supposed to be here. I'm going to pull it. We're going to be having a lot of salads in our future. So this is bed number 2, and this is where I actually wanted to plant lettuce this year. You can see I've used another cloche here, and it also can come off now. And you see that the cloches were actually sitting on a stone. And that's because when it was getting so warm during the day, I wanted there to be more air flow. And I found in a really old gardening guide that they had special pegs for cloches so you could raise them up easily. I actually wanted to make some of those wooden pegs this year, but I haven't gotten around to it. But a stone works fine too. It just allows it to get not too hot during the warmth of the day inside. And then at night you can come along, just take the rock out. But as I said, it's warm enough here now. This is a cool weather crop. So I am going to remove the cloches. Now over here, you can see lettuce at 3 different stages. This lettuce was actually the little patch of lettuce that I sprouted from seed under the small cloche in the fall. I just moved it from that bed to this bed because I wanted to plant spinach. So this was from seed. Now this I also planted from seed, but you can see it wasn't under a cloche, and it is very far behind in terms of growth than the stuff under the cloche. It's an amazing difference. And this lettuce here, these were some more of the ones that self-seeded. I actually transplanted them so that I'd have lettuce at 3 different stages to sort of spread out my harvest over here. But again, not under a cloche, they are growing much more slowly. Now it works over here, because as I said, I don't want them all ripe at the same time. But what a difference. So cloches are great for giving some warmth to a plant to get it going. It doesn't just have to be lettuce, it can be almost anything. In fact, if I were going to plant my peppers today, I would love to put cloches over them because it's, like I said, it's still pretty chilly here overnight. I'm actually not going to plant them today anyway, but that is something else you can do with cloches. Now, I have the big wide cloches, which are good for going over plants, but I also have several of these, and you can tell these are just vases that I picked up at a thrift store. I think I paid about $2 for them. And what these are going to do for me is they're actually going to warm the soil up before I plant something, and then probably after I plant. As some of you may know, I try to grow loofahs here. It's pretty challenging in Zone 5B, especially when we have a cold start to the year. Loofahs do not like cold. They do not like cold soil. And if you plant them and it is chilly, they will stunt, or they'll just stop growing for a while. They'll shock. and then it takes a long time for them to get going again, and we don't have that much time here in Zone 5B for the loofahs to grow, set fruit, and for them to ripen. So what I'm going to do is I have 4 of these vase cloches that I picked up, and I'm going to put them here in front of the trellis in the 4 spots where I'm going to put my loofahs to warm up the soil before I plant them, and then after I plant them I'll probably keep the cloche over top to give them a little boost of warmth until they really get established and start growing. So that's another great use for these cloches. And look at that, after only about 10 or 15 minutes in the sun, and it's not even that warm today, you can see how they're already heating up. So with the cool nights we're still having, I could absolutely use these cloches for other things. I could actually plant the peppers and put cloches over them just to keep them nice and warm. They've been great for increasing my harvest, extending my growing season, giving me early crops, and just protecting my plants. This one, which is just some sort of fruit bowl, I only paid $3.50 for it at a thrift store. You can't beat that. These other ones, I think they were $4. The little ones, a couple of dollars. Great investment for helping your garden move along, especially with cold temperatures. And if you live in a really warm zone, like say 8, you could probably grow these crops year-round with the help of a cloche. I hope you give them a try. I'm certainly going to continue to use them and find other ways to help my vegetables get a good start and keep growing. Bye for now.